Hey, it's Jackson, and in this video, we're going to talk about some of the surprising research connecting happiness and well-being to sales performance and sales success. Now, first of all, excuse me, I'm not in my home studio. I've got a pretty good background here, though. But I was just so excited. I just had a call for an event I'm doing coming up for the Florida Realtors Association, and we were talking about some of the research here, and I just thought it was so good. I want to make a video on it. So check it out. If you have anyone that you're in a background in sales or you know people with a background in sales, I think you'll dig this video. So as you know, I'm kind of a nerd, and so what I like to do is take a lot of the scientific literature in psychology and neuroscience and kind of give it to you in a very practical way, particularly in the context of improving kind of your performance, right? And so I'm going to reference a couple studies here. So 1985 study, positive psychologist Martin Seligman studied thousands of salespeople at MetLife Insurance. Now, they were hiring about 5,000 people per year at that point, and he introduced a test to assess optimism level, right? So optimism is basically, I sometimes say, if like happiness is in the present, optimism is happiness for the future. So it's like you tend to see the best in situations and think that you will have a better future than you do now, or a generally more positive future, right? So they set up this test that basically measures people's optimism level in the hiring process. 2 years after hiring, the optimistic employees sold 31% more than pessimistic employees. But this is the weird part, interesting part. Those who actually failed the aptitude test, so their proficiency test with respect to like technical and sales skills, failed the test but scored high on optimism, kind of these super optimists, did 57% better in the second year. So pretty incredible, right? We see right away that our kind of emotional state, but particularly with respect to optimism about the future, showing up directly in sales performance. So now, important takeaway here is I think there's a lot of misconceptions around this. Like, I'm just a happy person, or I'm just an optimistic person, or I'm just whatever. No. Turns out optimism is learned. There's a very well-researched model from, again, Dr. Martin Seligman called the learned optimism. And kind of the way to do this is to be intentional with your explanatory style. So you can learn to be more optimistic by bringing attention to that. Now, explanatory style comes from something in psychology, which is basically how you tend to explain the things that happen to you. So you can have a more pessimistic explanatory style, right? So maybe something bad happens and I say, it's the end of the world and it's all my fault and I'm a fat, stupid idiot. Right? Or the same bad thing happens and I'm like, oh man, that's not what I wanted, but I know I can do better next time. And we can actually break this down a little bit further. So pessimistic explanatory style tends to be the 3 P's: permanent, pervasive, and personal. So when something negative happens, I have an explanatory style that is permanent, pervasive, and personal. So let's say I was meeting with a client trying to sell them this house and the deal fell through. So I will first make that permanent. I say, man, I'm never going to get a sale. Never. So one-time thing, you just made it permanent. Pervasive means you kind of apply it to all different areas. So you say, oh man, I'm such a failure. I can't do anything right. Well, actually what happened is in one specific instance in one domain, which was the sale, you failed. It says nothing about how you show up as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, or as an administrator, or as an athlete, or any of those other areas of your life. So pervasive is you take a failure here and you apply it everywhere. And then personal means, again, saying it was all my fault, which, great, it's great to take ownership, but maybe this person just didn't like the house, or maybe this person just found their dream house the day before and they didn't want to cancel on you, so they showed up knowing that there was no chance, right? So again, you're taking an event that was maybe partially your fault, but still you're personalizing it. So instead of saying, hey, yeah, I could have done better, you're saying, oh, it's all my fault, I did this, I'm a failure, right? So you can see the 3 P's there. An optimistic explanatory style inverts that and makes it temporary, local, and general when bad things happen. So again, you imagine that same situation and you say, hey, I didn't do well this time, I'll have to do better next time, and I know I will. So you're keeping the temporary thing temporary. Local, you say, hey, you know what? I still have some growth to do, particularly in closing sales, but I know I'm doing really well in getting the appointment set. I know I'm doing really well as a parent, as a friend, whatever. Like, I'm still solid, but I just want to improve in this one area. So you're keeping the local, and then making it general or external, is you may just acknowledge, hey, well, I know that this person said that they were looking at other houses and their brother-in-law did real estate, and so I could have done better, but maybe it wasn't totally my fault. So again, you're not kind of like not taking ownership there, but you're just acknowledging that it's not entirely personal. So you can see then, if you are intentional about your explanatory style, I recommend even taking a moment after you fail and writing down the self-talk you have. Then you can intentionally shift your explanatory style so that when bad things happen, because they will, you will fail, you think, all right, how can I make this temporary, local, and general or external? So this was a one-time instance. I know I'll improve next time, and I know I'm crushing it in all these other areas, and I know I have what it takes. So you're keeping it short, you're keeping it local, and you're not making it personal. And so by intentionally shifting explanatory style, you can actually learn to be more optimistic, which is going to make you ultimately more effective, as that study just showed. One other best practice I might suggest to you is something called the best possible life exercise. Now, this is another way, scientifically shown, to improve or increase your capacity or your tendency to be more optimistic. So this is a research-based protocol that has been shown to improve a variety of measures associated with happiness. I will highlight a few of these. Norwegians in a 4-week program who did this protocol reported increases in emotional well-being lasting 6 months. Diverse American undergraduates did this protocol for 4 weeks and saw gains in positive emotion and social connection. Undergraduates who spent 15 minutes per week doing this protocol for 8 weeks felt happier immediately after and 6 months later if they continued to put effort into it. South Korean and Chinese university students who did this protocol increased well-being and decreased depression. And finally, chronic pain patients with disabilities completed this protocol for 8 weeks. And both groups, or all groups I should say, increased emotional well-being and actually decreased pain symptoms. Because remember, I said these were patients. One other group of Iranian cardiac patients, so heart disease issues, did this and displayed improvements in hope, depression, and actual biomarkers of stress. So what is the protocol? Well, it's pretty simple. Take a moment to imagine your life in the future. What is the best possible life you can imagine? Consider all relevant areas, so your career, education, relationships, hobbies, health, whatever. What would happen in these areas of your life in your best possible future? For 15 minutes, write continuously about this. And don't worry about grammar, don't worry about making it fit, don't worry about other people going to read it. You're just imagining your best possible future, and you are journaling about it continuously for 15 minutes. And for best results, you would do this a few times a week for, let's say, several weeks. And you'll get all of those benefits I just said. So you're going to improve your mood, but you're also improving or sort of building your tendency towards optimism. And a final note with this protocol is this is not meant to be a like manifestation, law of attraction thing. If you're into that, it's fine. I'm not really for it or against it, but this is not that. Okay, I'm not saying that this is going to be some magical thing here, but there's just research suggesting that engaging in this capacity is essentially tapping into your innate capacity for optimism, right? It's almost intentionally training optimism, and it's going to leave you in a more resourceful state, feeling happier, reporting higher levels of well-being, etc., which, as I said from the start, ultimately will impact your sales performance. So, the message of this video is not to be some woo-woo like, oh, it's all about, you don't have to work hard, it's all about positivity thing. Not it at all, right? Action is essential, technical skills, tactics, all of that are essential, but I would argue that the psychological dimension with respect to happiness and well-being, and particularly optimism, is probably just as important, right? It's kind of an essential foundation for success in any domain, but specifically in this case, sales. So I hope this video was helpful. You know, I always share tools and tools and practices from kind of the study of happiness. In this case, this was a very, I guess, work and productivity focused application, but I think some of you might find value in that. So if you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, I guess also let me know. But that's all for now. So as always, you can find videos here. You can look in at Jackson Kirchis, follow our channel, etc. And I'll do my best to share what I learned from the study of happiness with you. Here's a video somewhere, I think it'll be here, that YouTube suggests you'll like, and I'll see you next time. Wishing you happiness and success.